All right, give me a second. I'm gonna actually be inviting someone onto this feed. I'm inviting Jim on. I'm very excited. I woke up really late today too, so I'm just kind of waking up. Give me a minute. It takes a second to be able to find him. Once he's on here, I can invite him. Hold on. I should be really good at this, right? Okay. So, give it a second. I just like having anyone on my show because it really breaks it up. I'm all for it. If anyone wants to do any collaborations with me. We have Tony on here. Hi, Tony. I'm waiting to get Jim on live feed. I'm excited to talk with anyone else generally on my lives. I'm going to have to get Tony on a future feed. Hint, hint. We have Bethany. Good morning. I'm just waking up. I'm gonna get a guest on my feed that's gonna ask me questions about consciousness, I suppose. I'm real excited about it. I'm actually someone, if you know me, that is open to anyone else's perception of reality. I'm open to other people having their own kind of individual experiences here. I know that my world might look way different than one of your worlds, and I'm really open-minded when it comes to listening to other people's perspectives about reality. He says that that he might want to debate with me. If you know me, I don't debate anyway. I said I'm real open to whatever anyone else has to say, so I'm kind of excited to do this. I just gotta get him on here. Hopefully it will let him on his device. I'm not seeing him on here yet. Look, viewing the list. Good morning. I put up a post about the Schumann resonance, and it's really affecting our dream state, which I'm really excited about. I told my husband if I have to come back another life, I'm for sure coming back as a scientist who studies the subconscious, for sure. So, good morning. I'm waiting for Jim. I'm stalking him when he pops up on here. Hopefully he's on a good device for it. Oh, I got him. But you gotta, Jim, if you can hear me, do you have a different device you can use? It won't let me add you on whatever device you're using. And I forget, Mike had that problem too when he was trying to go live. I think he had to use a different device because it won't give me the option of adding you on whatever device you're on. So maybe if you have another device, can you comment and let me know? Me and Mike had those kind of problems too. I forget what device he was trying to go live on. He had to switch devices, I think. Do you have another device? He clicked off, so hopefully. I don't know why, but it won't let you on whatever kind of device you're on right now. iPhone 5, and it's all you're rocking. Okay, we might not be able to go live. It doesn't give me the add option. I'm going to have to ask Mike, because when I tried this, there's like no option for it. I'm going to try another way. I'm going to click the guest request that allows your viewers to request to join you. Try to see if it gives you an option to request to join my video on your device. Because it won't give me the option. So like anyone should be able to join me right now. He doesn't want to go live anyway anymore. I'm trying to make him. Perfect. This should work. I approved it. It says adding.
Yeah.
Ever go live on my real channel, right? It takes like 10 minutes to add the person. Good morning.
Aloha. My left ear just started ringing so hard.
Like
Holy
that.
shit.
I want to hear what's going on in your reality. What's up?
Oh, this little guy, Gabriel.
Perfect. We love cats around here. I love it.
And his fort, he just puked like I told you. It's not even dawn yet. I just was outside puffing.
Well,
And
animals are very tuned in to what's going on with the energies. And I was having weird sleep the past 2 nights. Like, I sleep amazing if you know me. So I was having weird sleep. Like, I kept waking up a lot and I was having more crazy dream experiences. And then I put a post up about the Schumann resonance kind of doing weird things. Been a lot of anomalies with it. And pets are real tuned in and sensitive to energies. If you guys are ever in a full moon storm, you see all the animals acting crazy and going nuts.
yeah, I mean, part of it might have been that I fed him at like 4 a.m., which I normally don't do, and he might have eaten it too quickly. Because I was just chilling, starting to listen to this Galactic Mind weather report thing, which I'm not always into, but I was like, oh, I'll check this out. And then I thought I heard a noise, and I popped my earbud out, and he's just like hurling everywhere, like fresh food. I'm just like,
Oh, well,
so I'm
good.
not
What
going to say it's not
did the
Schumann.
weather report say?
I think we just went into like a blue. It's one of those things. I'm very stoned, and I know what I heard, but I couldn't recapitulate it for the value of what they said.
Yeah,
But basically, it resonated deeply with like Sagittarius vibes, but not coming from that culture, which is fascinating to me. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm trying to piece together, as someone who's not as fully awake as you might be, um,
I
what
think you.
relevant culture is necessary for people. You know, like there's a whole spectrum here of like individuals and all sorts of tribal collectives culturally. But there
Yeah,
might be, but what you're getting at, like even with Schumann resonances and stuff, is energetics seem to be to breathe through archetype, regardless of culture. Though those things tend to make a lisp of the words of the holiness or whatever that's happening. So yeah, I don't know. I'm ranting, but we're in an interesting
it's okay.
time
I love
because
you to talk. It's good for you to practice to talk because he's gonna have this
uh,
big podcast series of his own one day. He's gonna have a bigger
we'll
mission
see.
than me. Everyone around me will. Listen, I go to Google the Schumann resonance, and people don't know shit about it. I said this morning. I'm on Google. I'm trying to look into it, right? And I said every article is pretty much the same one regurgitated back about the Schumann resonance. It did interest me that they said that they measure it at its weakest point. So any statistics we're seeing, in terms of the Schumann resonance all over Facebook, those are not a really good depiction of it because they're measuring the lowest frequency point of it. So we can't really get a good understanding of it anyway. Who knows? It fascinates me though.
Yeah, it could be much more ratchet than we realize. I mean,
Yeah,
that even brings up the
people don't
point,
have a good
like,
scientific understanding around here of anything, whether it's the body, the earth.
right. I mean, I'm okay. So from where I'm at, it's like I've inherited a modernistic scientific model that I tend to look at reality with, like it's like a schematic that can be read. There's this guy named Marshall McLuhan who was a media expert back in the '60s, kind of like Terrence McKenna, but a Roman Catholic and not on about drugs. Anyway, he was all about like talking about how our brains, and this depends on presuppositions, because if one thinks we came from an evolved past that's very linear and not punctuated. Like, let's just say, if you're using a model that doesn't include Atlantis or Mu and stuff like that, right? Um, our brains and shit started reading reality in a very specific new way when we became literate as a species. Like before, I mean, our bodies have been the same way for about 200,000 years, hardware-wise, but our software and how all that shit's been going. I mean, obviously that's the big change. So there was a point to where I was going with all this dirt.
Love it anyway. Everyone loves it watching. Trust me, we're so into this stuff. I am so into. I wish people could merge science and spirituality
Oh,
around the floor.
that's what
I'm
you reminded me.
very into that. I want scientific stuff. I know that I have this sense of knowing and intuition. I want to see frequency charts. I want to see us measuring our body and our frequencies and all science kind of stuff. And I feel like there's a void there where everyone's just into what they think the universe is about and they're not really into like scientifically proving it, right?
Well, that's what I spaced now. Remember, it's like science as such now is really kind of in flux. I mean, what I was saying with the modernistic model is kind of just like A plus B equals C. It's a tea party. It's obvious. We're realizing clearly that it's almost more like static potential. I mean, it gets dicey really quick, in the past 40 years of like quantum theories and stuff. So what you're saying is amazingly interesting to people like me, I guess, who are coming from. I mean, look for example, the speed of light is based off of an average.
Yeah.
And that model's like accepted, kind of like what you're saying with Schumann stuff, where it's like even the stuff where we as monkeys or woke reincarnates or however you want to dice this, as we're looking around and trying to dice reality with given models, these models are flimsy, and sometimes I see I'm at a point where I'm not full on like how nefarious is this,
I mean,
but
we share
obviously
our DNA. They say that we have similar DNA to mushrooms. Actually, that all
very
life on this planet has real similar DNA. So maybe that's where they got their monkey model. I'm thinking that we just have similar DNA, but we have similar DNA to all life on this planet. If you really, dissect things, I guess. I don't know though. I've never resonated with this stuff. I don't know. They like to use science to control our notion of reality in whatever regard. The things that they're teaching in school are so that they changes our perception of how the world works. And
yeah,
I'm
like a
all
model
about,
changes how you see things,
yeah, I'm
the
all
yeah.
about trying to manipulate and control my own vibrational frequency to try to change the experiences I'm attracting to me. I don't think we've quite arrived because I've seen like glimpses of humans used to be able to change this dreamscape. It's almost like a dream reality here. And when humans used
Almost.
so lucid that they could just control, like in a lucid dream, control everything about their reality, what they're experiencing, who they're drawing to them. And I know we're not quite at that point yet, but we are learning how to like manifest and vibrate higher. And, we're waking up more and more from whatever is happening to the energies. I just did, to throw this in there, I just did a Skype chat with someone in Australia, and they were talking to me about the sun heating up. and,
Uh,
and what's going on with the sun, because we're seeing a lot of solar radiation, solar waves. I don't have a good understanding of that, but I know that as this energy is hitting us from the sun, it is, sending these codes to our body. It's activating our DNA. It's upgrading our bodies and having these crazy kind of energetic effects on us. But there's crazy things happening with the planet.
so for example, I'm not gonna say that's true or not. Let's just for a moment
No
try to
idea.
take a higher perspective. Well, I dig it. I think it is true. Like I think all the
I mean,
myths
we
are
see
coming
solar
true.
waves, we see solar energy that's being measured,
Yeah,
but who knows what's going on with it, right?
right. So kind of what our like okay, it depends on let's see how we're going to do this. When you're like it's kind of like a dream, I'm at a point where I'm thinking. I mean, have you seen the movie Waking Life? It's a good
No, I
film.
haven't seen that. No.
Oh, that's your homework.
Got it
It's
now.
it's one of the best films ever. Everybody should watch
No.
Waking Life. It's a
I'll
Richard
watch it.
Linklater film. It's crazy. It's basically I mean, it's using very artistic method. Basically, they took film and then had a bunch of artists animate over top of it and then remove the film, so it's very surrealistic. It's like
Oh,
being on drugs, really, quite frankly. And then the whole premise is this kid is in a lucid dream. Is he alive? Is he dead? Like, can he get out? What you're getting at is, I think what's happened is everybody isn't necessarily. I mean, okay, the biggest the biggest pullout you could have is monism, right? Where it's like all is one. Whether there's multiverse or not, we can get into that. But it's like everything in the egg of being is like connected in this system of at least correlation. And then if you start getting more and more deep, uh, it can get as far as solipsism, which is like I am the creator of all that I'm witnessing, and it's an external projection of me. I think somewhere in between the middle, like we're all basically in a dream state, collectively witnessing something that we're projecting without realizing it. But
yeah.
this gets into models that you're more aware of because I'm coming from more of like I'm just now. I mean, I'm 33. I'm just now shedding modernistic models in the past few years. I mean, in 2013, I started turning into spirit science, right? And I was
Yeah.
like, that's interesting, but I don't know. Because I was coming from a Judeo-Christian background, so it's like the whole thing of like Jesus is just an alien, whatever, whatever. I'm like, uh, but at this point, I mean, when Jupiter went into Sag, I told you I was doing like starseed activations, right? Or whatever. So, I mean, there's a lot of astrology as to why that might be the case, as to why I was there, open hearted in that space. But
Okay.
everybody's kind of in that space. Like, everybody's looking at the models they're used to. Most people. I mean, and where
Yeah.
they're at is what they're doing. So, some people are like I'm not, this isn't comparison shit. Like, some people are going like hardcore vegan and living in communities. Some people are like realizing the two-party system isn't that great, which is also waking up. But it's like elementary school
A lot of
waking
people that have a lot of political awareness now. You're seeing people more into politics, where when I was asleep, no one cared in
up.
America, right? no one really cared. We didn't really pay attention. Now everyone's kind of paying attention to it, noticing the things happening. So this is awakening us. I think the problem is that our reality is projected from our subconscious, and we really can't access that. We
Collective
are
too.
in our dreams, but really, how much are we remembering and bringing back with us? So it's being projected on a subconscious level. We're real aware of our conscious mind now as we're waking up. We're like real aware of our thoughts. But you know what? When we go look into the subconscious mind areas, the only research that they really have in those areas comes from psychiatry, Carl Jung, and people like that. They don't really even have delve into like past like like that, but they don't really have a lot of scientific understanding.
I don't know if the audio is choppy as fuck just then for anybody
Sorry.
else, but no, I don't give a shit. I'm just saying that was like Contact. It was like I think I saw a Hitler video footage, but I'm not. If you've seen the movie Contact,
The
am I
door.
gonna have to give you?
Getting it. It's the mail. I'm gonna go get the mail. Talk to them real quick. I'll be right back.
Do your thing. All right.
you
Well, I mean,
Never
I have a
mind.
general. I have a question for you that you. Okay. 'cause
Okay,
what
good.
I'm
Ask
talking about
questions. I'm down. I'm okay with if you don't. He's, maybe not into the same things I'm into. I'm into radical ideas around here. So
we
definitely
need radical
ask
ideas. Okay, so what's your? I mean, obviously, you think shifting is happening at a radical rate. We just said radical a lot of times.
I think what is happening. Sorry, it was loud here.
Shifting, like, I mean, obviously, but what I was going to get at is I was talking the other day with some sync heads who are, I pronounced it Carl Jung. I don't know if that's correct. You said Jung. I'm not sure. But these synchronicity is a Jungian term. And these kids are from like, one of them was in Japan, one of them was in Virginia. It doesn't really matter. But we were talking for a few hours and about like schizophrenia, like madness, and noticing sync, because I think ultimately the human brain. Okay, I have a question. It's gonna get there. Trust me.
Okay, go ahead, because I'm so into this topic.
Yeah, word. So the human brain is an organic thing that is evolved over a long period of time, and there's going to be baggage inherently because of that, and there's limitations. So for a long time, we like the prefrontal cortex is the hot topic right now. You know what I mean? Like that's been the jam for a while in evolution, and I think that's a part of the brain that's communicating with the older reptilian parts of the brain. So you might, what that does experientially, like phenomenologically for the user, if you want to put that, like the person like experiencing consciousness from a brain perspective, is going to be interesting and varied probably. And anyway, the point is schizophrenia and all this weird shit. Like when people start seeing sync, I think madness is like when you can't correlate it. It doesn't make sense. You kind of blow out.
Yeah. I have a good perspective on that too, because I was one of the, I'm an indigo. I don't comply oftentimes. If you know me, I refuse to comply with assholes. Built-in non-compliance. I'm an indigo. Raise my hand, right? So I was one of those people that got targeted going through the education system because I refused. I would tell my teachers to fuck off and would refuse to comply with them or whatever, right? So we get labeled. I noticed a lot of the healers get labeled with bipolar, schizophrenia, things like that. I think that when you're at a low frequency, that it throws your abilities off. So I was at a really low frequency, and the energies I was taking on were too much. It was too much when I would be out at Walmart and around people. I was taking so much information rapidly. I wasn't able to process it. When you are at a low frequency, the lower spiritual, your gifts keep kind of like a curve at a low frequency. Those people have not adjusted yet. A lot of this time, that go to the highest time, right? I see that people that are right, have it going, and what they do is like to medicate. Throw in some medication and lower your more. That's why a lot of people do the medicine that they don't want to take. No, like those things don't want to take. Good month or med that again. It has a lot to do with they will adjust to the abilities, but when we're going through our own darkness, part of the process of delving into darkness about ourselves, going through that phase, all these almost like overload, too much. A lot of I like your talking about the break because know what? The whole frontal part of the right now for the whole cycle, people were not using their third eyes, and for the first time ever, our brains are wired. If you keep humanity stuck in the back part of the brain, the reptilian cortex, people are going to fear and basic survival needs, and they're not going to be tuned into consciousness. The front part of our brain is like the big consciousness. So we're just being rewired. Something's happening, and that is affecting our brains, our nervous system, and upgrading our entire nervous system too, in terms of how we. I was feeling like I was in a dream last week. I was running around yesterday, so driving through the road, and my frequency was so high that I almost felt like I was in a dream state. The way the energy felt to me, the way it felt to me, it almost felt like I was dreaming. In kind of a way. So I think, like, pushing us into this awakening, or we're realizing we're this dreamer, and that this reality isn't much different than the realms that we go,
Everybody's saying it's really choppy. I don't know if that's you or me or what, but
Oh, no.
I can get to a question.
Out. It looks clear on my end. It could be other people's connection, because it really does look clear on my end. Like, it hasn't cut out once.
It says I got better when I moved.
Yeah, like,
I don't know. It's cool now.
And so is the feed. So you guys might be having issues. Maybe
I have a space heater on, and
no,
maybe
I
it's
hear
picking
you
that
perfect.
up on the mic. Word. So I have a question. Just bookmark this question, because I want to get to it, but I didn't. And then we started. I mean, we can pop around. I don't feel bad, but obviously,
ask the questions.
This is how I roll. So 2012 stuff. I want to get into that in a second. But what I was getting at earlier with the model that you just explained with the brain stuff is like, if these Schumann frequencies, let's presume the model is that we aren't in a simulation. I mean, see, it gets tricky when you start trying to break it down. It's like, if this is all just like a fucking hallucinogenic holographic thing that we're part of, then the consequences of how we approach it are going to be different than if we're participants in a kind of terrarium of being in a different way, Like, if we're kind of like more like the model that's been presented in Greek mythology and all the mythologies ever, where it's like we're participating with. Like, I'm at a point where I'm not sure if psychic events and beings and entities are like electromagnetic, like materially reductionistic things that we're experiencing with our brain phenomenologically in a particular way, or if we've just dissected the fucking dream so deeply that now we understand how weird the dream can be, but like it ultimately does matter, Yeah. Anyway, okay, so the question with 2012 is, let's presume for a minute that we're monkeys, we're evolving. I'm not getting into starseeds or like Atlantis right now, but let's just do the, because we're arguing. I mean, I'm not sure if Darwinism is correct. We were given that model. I mean, there's a lot of I work with it because it seems presumably accurate, more so than a young Earth Christian model or whatever, right? So, but at some level that could be incorrect, and who knows? But let's just presume for a minute that we're evolved, and we've got these brain situations going on. I'm pretty sure what's happened, and I want your opinion from your perspective, given what you think as Robin or whatever. What's 2012 about? I think that was a real thing.
Okay.
Like,
I love
think
this
that
topic
shifted
because
consciousness.
I grew up in a weird time when people thought the world was going to end with 1999 and the internet. Remember, people used to think the internet was going to go out and the world was going to end, and then they told everyone the Mayan calendar was ending in 2012 and the world was going to end, and people really were preparing for these kind of things back in the day. People were like, stocking food and not sure if there was going to be some kind of the whole world goes out from the internet or the world ends. First off, I'm not sure if the Mayan calendar was actually predicted correctly. Who knows, right? Maybe it didn't happen yet. But it could have. It could have been the real prediction. We don't really know. It could have been misinterpreted too. But there are anomalies that are happening with the energies. I want to go back to, you asked me about shifting realities. And that's what they said, that the planet would shift into a new reality in 2012. And I guess I don't really know a lot about like the multi-universe kind of theories and things like that, but I know that our vibrational frequency is affecting, the probabilities we're brought to us. So if I decide that I'm going to wear this shirt this morning, and maybe I was going to wear a pink one, right? Maybe I had a choice to make. This shirt or the pink shirt, somewhere I am in a parallel reality wearing that pink shirt if I had a choice to make. So, I think that when we're at a low frequency, it's going to keep humanity stuck on low frequency timeline. So if I'm at a low frequency, all those low vibe timelines, as we're raising our frequency, I think we have access to more probabilities and more timelines. We are making shit all the time. Sometimes they're small shit, like what should I eat for lunch, right? But sometimes they're more noticeable timeline jumps. I can talk about this because I had a crazy year. I went across the U.S. and then I went across the planet. And I noticed that I must have shifted timelines because I was experiencing like the Mandela effect in my real life when I moved to the UK, where suddenly my friends were not my friends anymore, a lot of them on this timeline. I couldn't get certain vitamins that I've been using my whole life. They just don't exist on this timeline. I was noticing actual differences. Like I do astrology. I use this astrology site all the time for years. I go it like it never existed, isn't there? And so
What
I was
site?
noticing glitches. Yeah, like noticeable glitches, like not even joking. So I would describe that as a noticeable, huge timeline jump that I made. It was more noticeable, right? When you lose your friends and they're suddenly like Mandela effect, parallel universe friends, things just start.
Right. I mean, it's tricky. I don't. Okay, so it's gonna. It seems like there's energetic truth that gets processed by where one's soul or consciousness is at a grade, and it's not like a better or worse than. Like, I made a post the other day, pissed off a lot of people because it was talking about like how basically the masters are gonna stop being masters, or and like esoteric kind of occulted information is becoming exoteric, so people are because of information, knowledge is power. So it's like illumination. Like Buddha means awake, right? So we're all becoming little Buddhas, it seems, progressively, some more quickly than others. And then if like their hearts are all dope, they're more bodhisattvas. But that's getting into other models. I don't have to use that. I kind of just
I,
jump around
so
models
I
like
feel
that.
like the people that were like on drugs or had harder paths are now, when you descend farther, that you're going to ascend farther. You're going to come higher up. So a lot of people that had the real hard paths and hard experiences, they're leveling up faster. And I feel like we're working our way up some kind of hierarchy around here, depending on where we're at on a soul level. But
Yeah.
knowledge is definitely power.
So I mean, even
Because we
weird
can
things like
liberate ourselves with that. We can free our souls with it. We can use it. And the thing is that they say that if you're going to have knowledge and not use it on your own life, then it becomes ignorance, right? And that
yeah,
it
that's your
becomes
karma.
deadly to hang on to knowledge and not use it, not pass it down, not be using it in your own life. So I feel like people are coming into all this knowledge, but we have to be putting it into action and using it to make our reality better at whatever level.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, how old are you? Out of curiosity,
How
not that
old
it
am I?
matters. 36, 26.
Yeah, 36.
You're older than me? Oh man, would not have guessed
I'm
this.
an ancient
Uh,
soul too. I always feel ancient anyway. When I was like young, I felt ancient here, right?
that's legit. I mean, it's funny because when you say that, okay, I mean, I have a young spirit, like an eternal man child is how I kind of consider myself, but that's because I'm a Gemini sun and moon. But you have a real young energy too. I gotta look at your chart. It's funny because
I'm
I
reverse
think,
aging. I'm reverse
yeah,
aging. I'm trying to
that's how
reverse
it
age
feels.
now. If he'll comply with me, I tried to explain to him that I think that you can reach a high enough frequency that it does something to the aging process. I feel like we're gonna stay whatever age we were at when we woke up in some way. That
That
when we
doesn't,
wake up,
yeah,
it does something to the aging process.
that wouldn't surprise me. I mean,
Seriously,
okay,
I probably
so
look
we,
better now than when I before I woke up on whatever level. I feel like it's rewiring our whole body in some way.
right. So this gets into, I mean, we don't have to get into 2012 because I wasn't saying like that's the end of the world, though that's how like that heavy energy, it's like here comes a shift, get ready. Because
And
there's a few cultures and
when
stuff that are like aware of it. Huh?
we're all waiting. Like, when is this event? Where's this shift at? Right? But it's happening all
Well,
around us. We're making shifts in our
yeah,
perception, though. We're
yeah,
making big shifts in how we're viewing the world and our perception, and that changes our reality. If we see this world limited and we can't do anything and we're prison planet slaves, then that's the reality we'll live in. When we're unlimiting our mind and figuring out we're infinite energy and maybe we can do anything and that those limits are fake, then it really is changing our perception about this place.
yeah. That's what I think 2012 kind of was. Whereas it was for some people, for cultures that were pre 2012, they energetically met of like Mayans. Uh, Terrence McKenna and his I Ching based computer program called I forget what it was called. Time Wave Zero. That's what it's called. Based off of novelty that he was charting through time space of fractal math, basically chaos math, and the I Ching. And then you had Nostradamus saying 2012 shit. I'm not trying to go back all saying 2012, 2012, but it's like
Well, I woke
people.
up after that too, though. We woke up
No,
after 2012,
exactly,
probably. Me
exactly.
and all did. So I think
2013.
I might have just started the awakening process. Maybe people just started waking up. I know people have said they've been awake since like the 70s around here, and things like that. But really put us into that lucid state in some way.
Right. So, okay. So, what I think is ultimately happening, and we don't have to harp on this 2012 shit for long. I think basically what happened is, and this sounds crazy, and it was always possible, but the consciousness of most people weren't ready to accept it. But it went from having a high priest situation outside of yourself to being able to access it yourself inside. Like
Yeah.
everybody can really, really do that now. I mean, religions were necessary for a long time. You had to have kind of a shaman intermediary, like, high priest sanctum thing going, and everybody could do that, but it takes a lot of both. I mean, it depends on stuff. On the one hand, if your mind says, I mean, I think I get what you're saying with vibration and kind of mind is reality stuff more, where it's like if you start thinking along the lines of the paradigm that this is so, I mean, that's magic, right? You start creating that paradigm, or you start entering into that vibrational resonance, and that timeline enacts, if you want it. So for a long time, it seems we were enacted in a timeline where we were disconnected from the power of our own divinity. I mean, that's clearly what the New Age has been saying for a while. It's one thing to say that intellectually. Like, it's one thing to say, like, I'm an American. Like, okay, I'm not going to get into politics. It's one thing to say I'm an American, but it's another thing to have, like, fought for America and, like, lost friends or something, right? So I think at this point, like, it's one thing for a lot of people to say, I'm spiritual or I'm woke, but now we're all, like, really resonating the high priest, or however you want to look at that. I mean, that's a model I use because I'm coming from more of a Judeo-Christian thing, but, like, you
I
are,
love it.
the
Christian stuff.
Bodhisattva tree shit is happening. Like,
A
we're all
lot of
having
knowledge
bodhis.
in with like the Vesica Pisces, the sacred unions. There's a lot of symbolism. I feel like maybe we just weren't into the Bible because we didn't have our third eyes open when we were introduced to it. But I bet if you read it from a woke perspective, that you could really decipher it. But they were speaking in parables, riddles a lot of the time. A lot of that.
Right.
I read a book too a long time ago. I don't remember it good, but Edgar Casey was real into the Bible,
Hmm.
and he did a lot of interpretations of revelations, as it pertains to the body, and it was really interesting stuff.
Right. So that's a good example of okay, so I've always wondered, it's like, and we can take this outside of Judeo-Christian context because I'm not hung up on that. It's just the model that it's very familiar to me. So I'm not going to be like
Yeah.
talking about like ISIS as easily, or whatever. Like, I can do that if you want, but
Yeah.
it seems that let me think how to put this. It seems that because I don't want to sound scary, because an apocalypse means an unveiling in Greek, right?
We're past
So
you can say what you want.
uh
We're past fear.
well, it's, some people are. I mean, it's like life is tricky. I mean, we don't have to get into fear right now. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at now, I'm really scattered all over. I can tell Gemini life.
It's okay.
Um,
I have effect on people talking to me, right? It's okay.
I'm flustered, energetically flustered.
It's okay.
Now,
It's okay. Please bring up your frequency. I love them. We could talk about anything. We got 37 light workers on here, and it might not seem like a high number, but we got crazy energy around here. It always
oh
feels real
no,
crazy to go. Everyone's loving
internet's
it. You have a
popping.
lot of real good information.
Well, I'm not even presenting anything. I'm just trying to, like, look at what we have on the table, the picnic table of life, because everybody now waking up as a being of understanding. That means, right, Buddha, awake. Like, when you start realizing I am the machine. I mean, yes, there's consequence outside of yourself, but we don't understand the relationship between internal and external as above, so below. It's a very complicated dynamic. No system or model is going to completely fucking chart that perfectly. Like, the map is not the territory. So whether it's Kabbalah or whatever, like, it might really articulate aspects of something beautifully, but it's not going to, like, be the full like the Platonic ideal, or however you want to put that. Anyway, um, because we're at this point, I think 2012, where basically, whether it's in a matrix program and the sentience of the program is waking up, I mean, that's kind of what was happening in those films, right? Where it was like, hey, this has happened 7 times before. These iterations are happening. You're an algorithm that's going to launch a code at a point when you're ready for the vibration of that code. I mean, it's like that could be how this is working. I'm
I don't
rambling.
even think we're
2012.
awake though. Like
we're
Everyone thinks we have
groggy.
this awakening and it's like we're awake. I don't even think we're awake. I
Nah,
think we have a
we're
long
groggy.
way to go in that. We're in this gradually because the frequencies are overwhelming and it would pretty much short circuit our body. So we're coming to lucidity. I feel like when I can actually change the
Yeah.
physical dreamscape and do the same things I can in the dream realm, then I will have arrived. So humanity is going through this awakening and we're waking up more and more. I've done so much awakening this year alone, right? And then some people are like, oh, she must have just woke up over there. And I've been awake. So I feel like we go through these stages with our awakening because I've had
It's
moments where I'm
initiatory.
really awake, really
Yeah.
asleep throughout my life, kind of.
Right. I'm okay. Maybe I this is where definitions and terms might get trite. So like woke has. I mean, I love Childish Gambino. It's a pulp. It's a cultural. It's you know what I mean. It's like saying like peace or something, which kind of it waters the idea down, but at least it's being talked about, kind of thing. So what we're getting at ultimately is the gestational process of reality, and like that's what initiation is. So I mean, it seems like if you're Moses and you get imagine for a minute, or anybody like the high priest talking to Ra or whatever. It's like imagine you get this fucking download and do with that. Like how do you present that to your culture around you without freaking them out? Because typically Noah situations happen, right? Where it's like you get a download and it's like escape or you like separate, like something's going to change. It's not usually for the best of all. It doesn't seem, but now we're at a point where what I was saying earlier is like we're in the
Get on
apocalypse.
your
It's a constant
podcast.
apocalypse. But now,
You're gonna manifest a huge podcast. You're gonna have way more followers than me because I tend to be bitchy. You're gonna have huge
no,
podcast,
followers,
bigger
fuck all
vision
this shit,
than me,
dude.
those stuff. You're gonna
Don't
have
even.
to speak and get out there.
All right, hold, step back. Don't even worry about that because I'm more
Okay.
worried about conversation than like that at all. So we were talking earlier about the Mayan blue spell or whatever I was listening to, and even right before this, I can pull it up maybe on my phone while I'm doing this. Hopefully, nothing closes out. There's this dope.
All
Oh
right.
God, I don't think I can do it. No, I took a screenshot.
Good. Tip.
See, there's this like the Sabian symbol of the day was something about like
Yeah, post
something
some links
profound.
after if you.
Yeah. I'll look for it. It's an Astromatrix app. It's
Uh,
free. It's good. It's kind of glitchy, but it's like it works.
I used the
Um,
astrology app you gave me, and it's awesome too. The astrology one, I was checking it out. I loved it.
yeah, that's Astromatrix. That's the one I just popped on right before we
Yeah,
talked. It
I
was like,
loved it.
what is today? Should I do this? Yeah, it's like it had the Four of Cups. I mean, that's the point. At some level, it's like most people don't understand how to put their hands into the surgical gloves of manifestation and magic. So they've had to watch high priests and other people do it, Aleister Crowley's or whatever, for a long time. And people generally are so distractible because we're monkey in our monkey minds. I mean, in a deconstructive Buddhist kind of sense, that we are easily programmable and distracted towards non-essential truths. Like football is dope, but it's basically the Roman Coliseum on steroids now, or whatever. Like LeBron James is God,
And
but like at some level, it's just like this is a fucking guy throwing a
yeah,
ball in a
but
basket,
we do make
whatever.
celebrities and sports stars gods around here. That's what they do, right?
But
They make
consequently,
Kim
here's something
Kardashian a god.
funny.
They like to make football stars gods around. Yeah.
Everybody, every culture, even Mayans, ironically, 2012, we're talking about that. Even Mayans had this weird game where it was literally fucking life or death. Like if you like I think the losing team like lost their heads and shit, and it was trying to enact basically a zodiacal procession. Like they were trying to be the zodiac in a way. I mean, Freemasonic stuff. I think eventually, I'm not a Mason. From what I can tell from the outside, it seems like ultimately it's just an astrological kind of body and matrix hacking. But nobody, you can't give that shit.
Well, I mean,
Most people are on
like,
baby food level, and then sometimes you get to middle
yeah, I would
school, you're
say
like, I'll
that
drink
too.
chocolate milk, and then when
It's
you're in
very
college, you're like,
occult
I'll
magic.
yeah. So it's but now that's to everybody. It's exoteric. That's the end time stuff. When I say end times, the time is over. The Piscean age is over, where you have to go be alone on a guru with a mountaintop and just do the mystical thing alone. It's like the age of Aquarius is groups, electricity, Uranus, revolution, movements, togetherness, harmony, understanding. That dumb song or whatever. But like we're here. The age of Aquarius
Is
is
my
that,
part.
and
I'm all about just bringing people to unity, building groups, learning spaces, bringing people together. Where a lot of our
that's why
missions
you
are
do
in
this.
going out and meeting people and hooking up with people and kind of getting out there too.
Yeah, that's totally why you do this. I mean, it's a both and constant paradox tension thing. That's the reality. That's all levels of reality. Except, I mean, there's some people who say that this is where it gets into like discernment and trust and stuff. It's like I don't know if somebody is Melchizedek incarnate, or you know what I mean, like or Ra. Like if you get into like some super hard New Age stuff, it's like some people are like, I am this deity, and I can see beyond duality, and it's like sketchy to me in terms of like
And you
how
probably
is this
saw
just
them in
another
our
shift of the gears where maybe. I mean, I'm not just. I'm
how to use
skeptical.
your.
Not skeptical.
I
I'm
we've had
inquisitive.
healers and like we've had healers and light workers attack us around here. So for me, I gotta pay attention to people's vibration and their frequency and where they're at. I know everyone's words sound really good around here, but I pay more attention to how people are making me feel with their frequency and their vibration, talking about it or whatever too.
1000%.
Yeah, it's hard to discern. We have everyone
Yeah.
just suddenly teaching, right? Teaching around here, and I see a lot of negative. Like it will be like 10% negative agenda with 90% spiritual teachings and truths like I'm talking about, and then they'll shove their little agenda in there, whatever it is, like kind of a negative agenda with the spiritual truths that you can look at a lot of some ancient texts like that too, right? So I don't know, you have to use your discernment around here. You probably saw that video in our group too, like
No, I'm thinking about specifically the guy who did this. Like spirit science was always like, this guy is uh a dude reincarnated, and Drew Melchizedek, I think is his name. I'm not against or for it, but at some level, it's like,
yeah,
are you channeling something real beyond yourself? Are you identifying with an archetype to the point where you've committed to it mentally? Like, see, I weigh all the options. I'm not
I
saying
don't
one is
think
better than the
people
other. It's
know.
like
I
there's a
don't
lot
think
of
a lot of
options on the
people know
table.
when they're channeling negative energy though. I
Yeah,
don't think people know though. Like a lot of people
yeah.
don't know. I don't know. Like they
That's
just
kind of
assume
funny.
it's
Well, I
like
was talking
so.
about this with this sync heads. Right. I mean, this like possession and stuff like that. What is that? Like, there's a guy who's a magician named Grant Morrison. He's a comic book writer. He's done some big stuff back in the day. Um, but he was talking at some level about all of us having multiple personalities, and we've conditioned ourselves basically with society, which is good for functioning, to mute a lot of these voices. But we have, I mean, I'm not gonna say we're all like schizophrenic and crazy, but it's like we have,
I mean, the ego is like a
it is Inside Out.
multi-personality.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie Inside Out?
No, but that I mean, the
Oh
ego
my
is like having a
gosh.
multiple personality. My ego personality was much
Yeah.
different than the real me, who I am now underneath it all. As I found, right, going and
Yeah.
playing that little ego role, going through the matrix. So we kind of do have multiple personalities.
Right. And then in
Yeah, I
a Carl
haven't seen
Jungian
that
kind of
one though.
way, which like in oh, you have to. Like I'm gonna send you a fucking list of movies and just be like, check any of these out on
Yeah,
a rainy day or
go to
whatever,
send,
because
I'm
they'll
gonna
like
post a drop
dope.
some links on go after, and I'll check them out tonight for sure.
Definitely. Um,
We need some news
but
around
oh
here.
fuck.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was saying. Well, that's kind of it. Like, it seems for a long time, like a lot of like not covens. That's a bad way to put it. There's waves of stuff, right? So it's like for a long time, like the internet itself was a new thing, and then anybody could get on it, but that didn't mean people were using it for the right reasons. Like kind of like chat
Yeah.
roulette. I went on there once, and I was like, "Oh my god, we can talk to anybody!" Like I was on acid, and I was like, "I could talk to anybody on in the world," and it was mostly like Middle Eastern dudes jerking off. And I was just like, "We are monkeys." God damn it. You know what I mean? Like nothing against Middle
Technology
Eastern guys,
used
but I
for.
was just
Yeah.
like,
It's really what technology is being used
yeah,
for.
it's sad. So we
Oh
have
my
this
god.
weird dance where at the one time you can't stay holy, and holy is a strong word. You staying in one's power of magic and being so high vibe all the time, it can lead to a very weird reality, but still, like I'm sure Jesus farted. I'm sure Aleister Crowley, like made bad jokes or whatever. So there's a level of carnation. I don't even embodiment that we're always, it seems, forgetting. But people who do yoga get it. But even
The
I
physical,
don't
the
know. I'm just
different world
rambling. It seems
around
like
us.
yeah, culture at large. I mean, my
Perfect.
hope is that we're all waking up, and by waking up, it's like coming into the understanding that we're all. That's the whole Kanye breakdown shit, y'all. Like, it doesn't really matter how you like him or not,
And
but
that
like
we're
his
all
political
equal
views, I
too.
don't agree with everything he's
I'm big on equality.
saying. Yeah, because he says
Yeah,
some
we're
stuff
coming
that's
back
far
to
out. Like,
the
I'm not
fact
trying to
that
get
we're
into slavery and all
our
that jazz,
souls,
but
that we're equal, and that we shouldn't let the government control drama us. We shouldn't let toxic boyfriends control drama us. We're kind of waking up to these things that we have power as little co-creators, right? Consciousness experiencing itself. And we're kind of waking up to that fact because we allowed a lot of bullshit. Yeah,
oh
we
shit,
allowed
check this
things to
out.
get to
Look
this
at my
point.
sunrise.
Yeah.
Check
Oh yeah,
check
show
this.
us. I'm gonna ask
This
you
is
about your music.
this is Colorado.
I know
That's a
it's
lake.
fucking gorgeous. Look,
That's a
we're checking in
lake.
Beat Central. Is Beat Central there too? We're checking into Colorado. It's like 5 a.m. there. It's real early. He set his alarm for me. I'm late, but it's gorgeous. He does music. Someone asked about music on the comments. He plays the guitar or something. I
That's
checked you
funny.
out once.
Okay,
I didn't
hold on.
really hear it because I'm always so.
I'll send you some
Yeah.
stuff. Don't worry about it. You're Casey, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah,
I
you get
don't
the
know much
guitar
about
out.
him, but it's sync.
Yeah.
Here's a sync. I mean, I could noodle, but I don't really want to. But anyway, dope sunrise, right, y'all? Edgar Casey was like, if you want to know what's up, basically, I don't remember the quote. I probably took a screenshot of it because I do that. But like, bottom line, Beethoven was even like the highest revelation of man is that's possible is music. Music is doing so much at so many levels because I mean, it's metaphorical, it's physically vibrational, it's all sorts of shit. I mean, it's personal, it's group. I mean,
It's more
it in
powerful
a
than
weird way, it's like
ever. Sound frequency is powerful. When I want to manifest something like, yeah, it puts out powerful sound waves like crazy. When you're playing the guitar, you're more in the flow than anything you could be doing, anything artistic. It puts you in that flow of consciousness. And it's powerful, those frequencies. That's why people really can control reality with music they're putting out in the mainstream, right? Things like that, they really have powerful effects on our reality, too.
yeah, if you guys want to do a really fun experiment, I used to do this. I need to do this more because I've been out of my practices. I went to Europe for a year and kind of got distracted, but now I'm doing better, kind of thing. Um, and not drinking alcohol helps a lot. Trust me on that one. But anyway, if you want to do something really dope, listen to stuff like Interstellar soundtrack or Philip Glass work, which is he's a minimalist and modern composer who's amazing. He does a lot of good scores. But that Glassworks is a really beautiful thing. And meditate to it, like with your eyes closed and like something over your eyes so you can't see. You will have experiences, probably. I mean, you got to be in a good state and kind of be open and breathe. But like the power, everybody knows this, but we've gotten into a society that is so rigged on impulses, caffeine, which is I'm not against. If you want to drink coffee, go for it. But like
Right?
nicotine, if you want to smoke, go
Caffeine.
for it. I'm not against it. Meat, you know, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like these things are necessarily cause they alter one's consciousness. I'm not saying in a bad way, but they alter. So we live in a very specifically altered and wired reality. Like Western world is about productivity, right? And like, what are you doing? What are you? Time is money. And I'm not saying those things aren't true. They're true to a point, but we've kind of taken them too in a way. Like like capitalism is gone too far. That doesn't mean money's bad. Money means value, like tourist stuff. But if if you start cutting down all the trees you have for oxygen for money, it's going to be a problem. Anyway, I'm going off onto all sorts of political shit. I don't need to do that. But
I love
the beauty
anything
of
you
what's
want to talk
happening.
about. This
Well,
is
I'm going to stop talking because I just gush.
happening with scientifically. You can see if you're studying things like anything that things are happening with the planet. Things are changing around here too. It looks like things are getting worse. Turn on the news, right? It looks like it's getting worse. But I feel like
It's
as
both
these
and.
frequencies are going up, we're purging out everything that's garbage around here, kind of on a collective level. So things are getting better in our own individual realities. Hopefully, like you said, you quit drinking. I quit all the pharmaceuticals. I'm improving myself and my life. So people are kind of feeling this pull towards ditching the toxins and things like that. You bring up a really good point talking about a wired kind of, society that's inducing these substances that affect consciousness because you see the prescription rates and pharmaceuticals and they're at this all-time high, but we know that stress is bad for the body, right? We see there's a lot of stressful things in our environment. We almost live in a toxic environment, but we're seeing that there's so many psychotropic medications being introduced into consciousness. You can't go ahead and drug someone up on medications and not have it affect me over here in my reality. We are sharing this experience. So we see that for the first time ever, there's this, infiltration of drugs, whether it's illegal opiates, street drugs or pharmaceuticals, garbage food everywhere, GMO food that's going to, affect your consciousness and things like that.
Right. And see, I'm trying to get a higher perspective, but not be like cut off from things. Because I think ultimately what the waking up process does is if you can get to a point, at one point, you get to an Alan Watts kind of stage, which is very solipsistic in a way. But when you're just like, all right, it's all necessary and good for the process of becoming and being, which is tricky because at the same time, there's this truth of like, we want better. Like we're hoping for something more. We're holding out. Like ideals do exist. So it's this weird tension. And it seems I mean, the Bible does not answer a lot of things for a lot of people. So I'm not going to shove that onto people, but it seems like that addresses some things well, where it says we're spirit and matter. So we're both like divine, whatever electric matrix source code, and participatory in the model itself, i.e., evolved primates, linguistically bound,
Yep.
creatures, if you want to put it that way. But we can transcend, and however, we're always kind of doing a balancing beam act. So it's like what drinking is fine, fucking is fine, all this stuff. But it's like if you do that all the time, it's like you're living like an ape more, right? But procreation is necessary for us to even be here. So if you just go off onto a mountain and don't ever meet another human, that's the end of your genome. So like your algorithm's done. So there's this weird tension between playing the role of a creature, right? Like that's why I think Buddhism makes a
With
lot of
animal
Buddhism and
instinct, you're right. People do feel an urge to mate and continue their bloodline and things like that. So we see these animalistic tendencies, and then we're trying to act like
yeah,
we're God and conscious at the same time with having all these kind of physical attributes. It's very hard to balance the physical and then the spiritual too. We're realizing this is a dense place. I can feel aches and pains and real heavy moving around here. We feel so heavy and
yeah.
dense and kind of physical here too. It's crazy.
What are your thoughts on because this had crossed my mind before. I've done enough peripheral research on occult stuff. I'm not a Kabbalist. I'm not an Egyptian mythologist, but I kind of can look around between my awareness and experiences. I can kind of gather there's a little more to the picture than meets the eye. So, what is your impression of this idea? What we were talking about earlier, ironically, and this is like us sitting in the meat suit hard, thinking as meat suits, right? As opposed to like any other kind of like outside model. Like we could get into you see what I'm saying? I'm saying let's like commit to like this carnation, I guess is a better way to put it. But if our brain is this very complicated symphony of I'm not relegating our personality and consciousness to the brain. I think it's a receiver, and I think there's a lot going on. But if a lot of our experiences being processed through that faculty, through that computer by a wetware, um, I'm wondering if like when the reptilian brain is trying to communicate and push through concepts and electrical impulses to other parts of the brain, how that process of translation occurs. Because it seems to
Yeah.
me that a lot of Egyptian mythology is very schematic. Like it seems to be talking about electricity and human anatomy in almost like metaphorical terms. So it's like kind of like your kundalini is like you have two nerves running up your spine, but we would in a certain model in Hinduism we would say that's your Ida and Pingala, I guess, or your Shiva Shakti stuff. So it's like, but that's essentially because they didn't have the technological finesse to like dissect a human body with laser accuracy and kind of chart it in a specific new way. Like, do you have any like what are your thoughts on this? Like, it seems
Well, I'm real
like
drawn
reality
to.
is
I'm
something that
very drawn to Egyptian stuff. They were clearly communicating through symbolism, but I've heard a lot of crazy conspiracy theories that maybe they were communicating through the hieroglyphics to us as a way to hide what they were saying. That they were kind of trying to sell us in a not so obvious way. If you see a lot of their buildings, they're based on the human anatomy. A lot of their temples were
like the
like
Luxor temple.
built,
Yeah.
yeah, built based on the human body, but a lot of their I'm real obsessed with their pillars for some reason, and I had that explained to me that it is the pillar kind of concept, and the Masons use this too. It
Mm-hmm.
is this the space in between the pillars, and that is a space of consciousness. That literally, it's like you're asleep, and here's you awake, and it's like it's the part where you come back from the dream world before you're quite awake. I forget what the term is, but that's the space in between the pillars. They were also drawing attention to the brain. We have the scarab beetle, we have pictures of the third
Yes.
eye, and symbolism about the brain. So they also have pictures of DNA helixes there. And we know they say
Right.
they didn't have microscopes or advanced technology, but they sure could see what a DNA strand looked like. So they had a really good understanding of the body. Any of their like mystery school kind of stuff would have been teaching how to detox the body and purify it. I know they used a lot of blue vervain like we're using to really pull the garbage out of their body, to detox it, and to ascend into this godlike state. We see that the Masons, they say that they got their knowledge from Atlantis, like the Templars. They say that they got the knowledge from Atlantis and they're protecting it. And they say that that's why they hide it, to keep it, hidden or whatever. I'm not really into hiding knowledge around here. I don't like what that
Right.
organization stands for.
Fuck that.
Dated a Mason and got a real good tour because he was a 32nd level. I got a real good tour of what they're about, and they're into very ritualistic kind of dark occult type
Yeah.
stuff. They say they have an understanding because they're not the top level of what's really going on there, but like seriously, they do, and they're really kind of drawing their power from those kind of dark stuff around the same stuff we're into. We're into enlightenment, right? So I don't know. They had a really good understanding of the body too. In any of this Masonic stuff,
I'm not.
Russian stuff, probably a better
I'm not trying
understanding
to
of
knock
human.
Egyptians. Yeah.
Yeah.
So right, like in a way, it's like they had a better understanding because they were doing like Blue Lotus tea and DMT teas and shit. Like they were probably
Mm-hmm.
communing with. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if I'm at a point where I'm not sure about the epistemological or the ontological nature of things like ISIS or whatever, like or
Yeah.
not. We don't even have to go that big. It's like when I mean, I told you my DMT trip that was very real to me, but at some level, I'm like I can look at it from an angle, and it doesn't relegate it to it's just this. It's like it's this and other things because it seems we're meat suits that are creating holographic fucking realities, but that isn't all that's happening. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot going on.
Well,
So I wasn't trying to
they would
shit on
have been much
Egyptians.
more
Like they were
connected.
what's
Not to
up.
interrupt, but not to interrupt real fast. I was
No,
going
do
to
your
say maybe
thing.
some better ideas too. They were real connected. They knew their purpose, their place, who they were. They all worked in harmony in Egypt and places like that. I think humanity fell, and that we're trying to get back to that.
Yugas.
And maybe past places were more advanced than we were in a lot of ways spiritually. And that's what we're trying to kind of get back to, I guess, right now at this time. But continue. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
No, you're exactly correct. Because what happened is it seemed there was intuited knowledge that was understood through shamanistic kind of rituals and all this stuff. And I mean, in India, they call it yugas. Like we're in a Kali Yuga now, they think, where it's just like we're in darkness and ignorance. And oh my gosh, it's hard for any truth to come out. Um, but it seems that like causal necessity is a funny thing. So it's very hard to do to have a I have a lot of Uranus in my chart, so I can kind of have this dispassionate view of things without being an asshole. Like I'm not trying, like I have a heart, so like I got to preface by saying
Yeah.
this stuff. But when you look at things like because a lot of people will tend to idolize in a weird way or romanticize the past. Like the Mayans, they had it all figured out. It's like they slaughtered. Like, have you ever seen? There's a movie called
Yeah.
Apocalypto by Mel Gibson. They killed so many people for no good reason or whatever their reasons. Like we can get beyond that. So I guess what I'm saying is
They had a
like,
lot of fear in these past places. They love to make it look like ancient times, and even 1800 movies were so fabulous in high society. But there was a lot of darkness and fear in these places, like
oh,
kind
so
of try.
much.
I look at it like we started out in tribal places. You can look at the Mayans like a tribal kind of place, right? Look at some of these ancient places, and maybe like the Peruvians. A lot of these places were like kind of tribal places. Everyone thinks that if you do another life here, you're going to end up, modern day prison planet. But at the beginning of a cycle, we would have started out in very primitive tribal places. Yes, they were connected to nature and the energies and, holistic healing and things like that, but they were real tribal places.
And they did human shit like human sacrifices and like weird sex practices and so what I was saying earlier is like the sterility of basically white Victorian scientism that happened with like rationalism and all this shit. Like it's coming to the conclusions that maybe these people like Egyptians and stuff had through different means. So I think we're all looking at the same thing, but when you start, you know what I mean? Like if I look at a word on a page as ink on a piece of tree that's been pulped, like that's a deconstructionist model of a material way of looking at it. But then I can look at the word and set and read it, and that is a holographic interpretive model, right? Or something like that's a linguistic model where you're reading something. So that's a different way of looking at the same damn thing. Reality is something that we read, and how we read it affects how we participate in the myth that we're telling ourselves and participating in. So Egyptians didn't have laser. I don't know. Maybe they did have laser technology and all this shit, but they didn't have like operating tables with MacBooks and shit. That we only have that now as a consequence of the fall into ignorance, but like in the dark ages or whatever. But also
Yeah, because everyone's sick.
There
Had
is
to invent medical technology to try to heal everyone, right? Everyone's sick,
yeah.
so yeah, you see a lot of focus on
Well, the funny thing about
medicine and expanding it nowadays.
the first thing I heard is
It cut off
like
a
the bubonic plague. In Switzerland, actually, where I was staying, the town had been moved during the bubonic plague, like down the hill, like 200 yards, because it was just like, we're all dying, and that's the spot. We got to go somewhere else. So anyway, the bubonic plague happened largely because of people got religious like fervor over basically Catholics, I think, said that cats were satanic, and that got people freaked. They all killed cats. Pests went up, pest issues go up, rats are the carriers of the Black Death. I mean, so you can deconstruct things in terms of like cause and effect, which is very neutral Buddhist kind of thing. But at the same time, we are participants in the glove of the fucking story. So that's where tarot archetypes come in. It's like, yeah, you're the fool's journey, you know? And then sometimes you're the knight of fucking swords, dealing with shit. Like
Yep.
right now, that's a very Trump energy, right? I don't like Trump. I did not vote for him, but he's at some level, in a weird way, a mantle of an archetype that's having to be manifest for the collective and all that. But then it gets weirder where it's like, do we really have to do this, y'all? Like, like is this we have control of the dream
He's waking
somewhat?
people up. That I say that if the next when they have another president after him, it will probably get more and more ridiculous what you're seeing on the political stage, and it's to wake people up because people think that politics are going to save them and that the
Right.
president's going to save them and they do their path for them and their lessons and kind of make their life better in some way. And I feel like it's just getting more and more ridiculous what we're seeing like on the news or any of their little drama or whatever.
Right. So it's funny that you say that because ultimately, even political models are kind of like what you were saying earlier about Freemasons and Egyptians, even because you had to be initiated. We're at a point, I think, in history where we can self-initiate basically into the higher mysteries for real. Anybody now, like between internet, like,
Yeah,
and maybe
that's what we're trying
where the zeitgeist of the person, like the consciousness is, like,
to middleman.
yeah, that's so. Once
The
everybody
churches,
starts really
right?
entering their holy of holies,
Yeah, because we
yeah.
got taught growing
So
up.
so
We got taught we needed to go to a church, we needed to go to a priest, or we needed to go to someone, you know, in a spiritual sense growing up. And now we're learning that we don't need anyone and there's no middleman needed to tune into consciousness ourselves.
right. Well, it's models. So they're good things, but models aren't. Okay, so my presuppositions are going to start bleeding in. I believe in a way, we have a broken sin means falling short, right? So in a sinful, broken world, however you want to look at that, like things aren't always quite adding up. But I'm not going to get into that because my perspective on death and sin and all that is very dramatically changing constantly. So, um,
Awesome.
but it seems like like I use the Forrest Gump. If you've seen that movie, I hope you've seen Forrest Gump. Okay, I'm like, you're cultured enough, right? Jesus Christ.
Oh,
Forrest Gump had leg braces, right? And that got him to a place where he could run. And like, and even at one point he was running like after he broke up with Jenny and had a beard in Arizona, and there's a movement behind him. So it's like, but look all the way back to it. He's like, he was unable, whether he manifested that in a pre-incarnation or not, or it's astrological or whatever. We don't have to go into that. He's in a model where he needs aid and structure in a Saturnian rigid forms, line, don't cross this way, like leg braces. That's very Saturnian. Um, I think of American politics kind of like that. I mean, our species has had to go through what govern. There was a time in our human history when it was like, stay near and kill anything that moves that you don't know. Like there was a time when that was the thing. You know, we had to come out of that, and that takes a lot of work,
Real primal
internal work.
food, shelter, and protect yourself. Yeah, real primal kind of needs too.
Yeah, but we're now, so America is like basically the last, like we're basically, if Forrest Gump had stayed in his leg braces until college, and they're breaking, it's like this isn't necessary. They're actually cutting us. Oh my God.
Mm.
You know, like we're at a place where we can self-govern probably through liquid democracy and the internet and stuff, but then it gets into things like,
Karma.
yeah,
We
well,
don't need rules. We have karma. I thought there's laws of the universe to take care of stuff like
it
that,
seems
right?
that's the case. That's why Trump is president in my mind. It's like that is
Yeah.
karma being played out. It's like
Oh, it's
I don't like it, but it's like it is what it is. And at some level, that's a weird. I don't want to be like woo woo to the point where I'm like, oh, yay for Trump. It's just, you know what I mean. It's both and. At the one hand, I'm like, oh my God, because he's a Gemini sun and a Leo rising. I'm a Gemini sun and Leo rising. So I see him and I'm like, that is my shadow. Like if I was like a womanizing, self-absorbed ass fuck. No, pardon my French. Like if I was the worst,
yeah. We love
that would be it.
many perspectives. We have Trump lovers, Trump haters. We don't get
But
we don't
he,
go in politics.
here's the
We're just
thing.
not in politics.
Grace falls on all of us. So he's like in the image of God, if you want to put it that way. He's part of the material stardust being 3D matrix that is like namaste, right? At some level. So it's this tension. It's both
What
and.
needs
It's
to
looking at,
go?
huh?
It's what needs to go. It's the things not serving us, right? And it is like the
Right.
shadow community, the government, right?
You know,
It
like on a
really is.
scab or like when you get cut, like when you get a deep cut and it takes a while to heal, like a bad cut, like months to heal, and then the scab happens to itch at some point towards the end. That's where we're at. We're itching our scabs off. It's like we're gonna have we're gonna have to clean up our planet, all this shit. If we don't die from solar fucking flares and like internal fucking fighting, we have some serious homework to do. But here's the thing, like all the shit's always
Or
gonna be going down
asteroids.
anyway. So it's like you can't.
I saw
What?
last month there were all these asteroids going by the planet. Asteroids. No one talks about that on the news, right? We have asteroids
No, yeah,
incoming, I
that's a
guess.
yeah.
Space rocks.
Yeah, I live with a model that there's been a Graham Hancock on the Joe Rogan podcast. He's been on a few times. He talks about like a cataclysmic event happening. Basically, I think it was called the Younger Dryas event, or maybe the Upper Dryas event. I forget which one. Go watch Joe Rogan. And he has a Freemason on there, Tucker Carlson, or not Tucker Carlson, Randall Carlson. Uh, I don't watch much Joe Rogan, but it's like one of the episodes where I was like, what? And even Randall Carlson, who's a
He's
Freemason at one point, was that's so what now?
he's really funny too. Joe Rogan. He's funny.
Joe Rogan's a Leo with a Scorpio moon. So it's like he's if you're on his good side, it's good, but when you're not, it's bad. I've seen some interviews where he gets like pissy with one of
Yeah,
his like
Scorpio.
people, like they're like antagonistic, and it's just like lion claws and a scorpion tail. It's rough. I mean, there's a reason he loves like fighting, right? But anyway,
I
look, I
love
don't need to take up your whole feed time. If you don't want to just
No,
talk the
I'm
whole
gonna
time, I
go
can
because
pop
I
off.
gotta go. I'm gonna get off of here now because I have to do a reading and then I'm gonna do a real feed. But I love talking with you. We gotta do
Word
this again. You
for
gotta have me
sure.
on your podcast. I love it. I
Look, you're
loved
my.
it. Thank you
This is
for your
soul
time.
family, right? Everyone's finding tribe.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's what this
Make
is.
a unity consciousness group where we come back to oneness. Everyone's pretty judgment free around here, open to other perspectives. It's really amazing. When you get off of here, please drop some links because people are so bored and into this kind of stuff. Drop some links for people too for some of the stuff that you were talking about. And I'm gonna go. Love and
For
light
sure.
though.
Later.
Okay.
How do I get off?